Oh, time?
Oh, we're just going to let it takes a few minutes for people to get broadcast and stuff. So I always like to go live about
Good morning, everybody. It's 9 a.m. 9 a.m. on, what is it, Wednesday? Thursday? It's a Thursday morning. So welcome. My name is Marty Barnewalt. I'm going to be your instructor today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and I want to learn a little bit about each of you. I'm going to ask that you please silence your phones, laptops. Please reserve your texting, responding to emails and phone calls for your break time. I'm going to give you ample break time. Please close tablets, laptops. Restrict your time out of the classroom if you're here for a certificate. It's important that you meet ADRE's requirement. We're going to have 2 breaks today. We start at 9. We're going to take a break at 10:15 for 15 minutes. That should give you plenty of time to return your text messages, make your phone calls, surf the web, play a little World of Warcraft, whatever it is you love to do. And then we'll break early. 11:45 will be your last break. Everybody want to get out early? Yes. My kind of people. Okay. So I usually start this program off with a little bit about the Arizona economy. And there's some things I want to share with you that I think are really important. The title of this class is Rules of the Road, NAR Code. And this serves 2 purposes. It serves your biennial code of ethics training, and it will also give you 3 hours of commissioner standards. So you get one certificate that you want to register on the ADRE website, right? And the other certificate you want to fax or email in to your association, because without it, they don't know that you've met your biennial requirement. We've changed from 4 years to 2 years now. So yes, there it is, instructions, ADRE. Okay, let's check in on our great state. So how many of you have heard of the Arizona Commerce Authority? How many of you know about the Arizona Commerce Authority? Please write this website down and become familiar with this group. This is the group that is really contributing to the state of your economy today. azcommerce.com. azcommerce.com. I'm going to share some information off their website right now that will help you to understand why I think this is so important for you as a real estate professional, but also if you're an investor. They will give you information about where you need to be looking for your own investments, if any of you do that. We've done it. I've done it in the past. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I started in real estate in 1984 in Prescott. I know many of you weren't even born then. Right. I taught a class the other day and my jokes were so flat because they were 18 to 20-year-olds and they had no clue who or what I was talking about. Who's Cotter? Well, let's welcome back Cotter. Nobody knew. So 1984, interest rates were over 19%. So you remember. So I didn't remember. Yes. That's when I started my career, left a corporate career, got into real estate. I have no idea why. Started with Merrill Lynch. Had excellent groundbreaking training at that time. They forced me to come from Prescott to Phoenix to take my 3 weeks of training in 110-degree heat. And I resented it. Single working mom, supporting 2 children. I thought, what a waste of time and money. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because within 18 months, I was a multi-million-dollar producer. I worked a plan, and it works. It really works. So education is really critical to you. So I can see a real mixture here. I'd like to know who's been in the business less than, let's say, 10 years. Okay, less than 10. And this, okay, so 3. How long in the business? 3 years. Okay, and you? 4 years. 5 years. All right. So that's less than 10. So we have anybody that started back in the heyday when things were really going well, just started? Yes. What year did you start?
2005.
2005. Yeah. And it went bust shortly after.
It was the easiest job I ever had.
It was you thought it was, right?
Yeah, I thought it was.
How about you?
2005.
2005. Who else? I saw it. What year?
2000.
2,000. Oh, so you really enjoy to run a good luck there. Yeah, that's really good. And you?
2003.
2003, another run of good luck.
I came right up the curve down.
Oh, see, and you're still here. That's what I love about this is you guys are still here after that horrible downturn because we're going to talk about some stats, some numbers in just a moment. How about you? Did I have any hands over here? No? 2002? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, under 15, you guys are brave souls. If you started back at the turn of the century and you're still here, I see that as bravery. You've seen the best of it and the absolute worst of it at the same time. So who's been here up to licensed 20 up to 20 years? Up to 20. Okay, so he has some wisdom. Over 20. Over 20. How many?
Since 96.
Oh, since 1996. Great. Congratulations.
Shortly after high school.
So this often happens to me. I wind up being the oldest person in the room as well as the longest licensed. So you got an old chick today. Here's why this is really important news for you. I've been in this business since 1984. I started in Prescott. I was there for 10 years before moving to the Valley. What I started monitoring was the trends of real estate, the 5-year, 7-year cycles, the ups and the downs in our cycle. In 2010, Governor Brewer set up the Arizona Commerce Authority. About 4 years prior to that, it was something else where there were people who were assigned, and I only remember a couple of the names. They were very prominent figures in the state, but they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So she came in and cleaned house, got rid of everybody, and she recruited nationally for strategic planners on how to get Arizona out of that boom and bust mentality. The real estate market controlled our economy since the 1950s. If real estate was doing well, everybody was working because we feed a lot of ancillary businesses, right? But when real estate got hit, it affected everybody. We went into poverty. So this is just a sampling of their webpage. These people, you are seeing a lot of changes. We should never be attached to a real estate boom or bust economy again because of what they are doing. So since 2010, these people have worked really, really hard. And I just want to share a little bit of it with you. So right now, we are number one in the entire nation for entrepreneurial activity. Our corporate income tax is among the lowest in the nation at 4.9%. That's helping attract all of these big businesses you see coming in and building big buildings and bringing people with them. They advertise 300 sunny days per year. I think that's a low number. When you live in the valley, it's like, really? I don't think so. But the reason they do this is because they want to advertise their solar capabilities. And solar is what we need to support the business development and growth that's going on in our state. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. We are number 2 in the nation in unemployment insurance taxation. We are second to the first in lowest unemployment for the first time in decades and decades, really. Important stuff. Here's a picture of their website. These are the areas that they focus on: aerospace and defense. You may not know it, but Arizona is home to more than 1,200 small and large-scale aerospace and defense companies, research and development, as well as manufacturing. That's significant. Technology innovation, lots of research and development going on. Renewable energies. What are our renewable energies? Who could tell me? Solar, one. What's the other one? Wind. Yes, wind. And we even have some hydro. Where does the hydro come from? Yeah, Lake Mead. Yeah, right out of Hoover Dam. But there's still another one. Have you heard of biofuels? Yes. ASU started the research and development on biofuels back in 2008. They have been working on this progressively for 10 years now, a full decade. Here's an interesting story for you. Biofuels will replace the diesel fuels and some of the higher octane fuels, right? So working with Boeing, they decided to sample some of their new biofuel and see if they could actually have a jetliner take off from Seattle and land in Dallas strictly using biofuels. Yeah. A 737 was launched in Seattle It had to be routed around all primary populated areas, so it didn't fly over us, on their way to Dallas. Had one person on board, was a pilot, and they handed him a parachute. I know, I love this story. I still get chills when I read about it. He took off. Flight took a little bit longer than normal because of patterns that he had to adjust to, but landed successfully in Dallas. That was somewhere around 2011 and 2012. I think there's some seats. There's one there.
There.
Yeah. Did you guys sign in?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, make sure everybody's name is on the roster. So biofuels are becoming huge today. Huge deal. And Arizona is the research and developer for that. Guess who owns, well, where does biofuel come from? Does anybody know? Plant-based.
Living creatures.
Algae. We grow algae. So there's huge algae beds now being developed in the U.S. Who owns them? Standard Oil owns the largest algae beds in our nation right now. Standard Oil. What does that tell you? This is progressive. This is progressive. We're at the very base of it. Another section that they're looking at is optics and photonics. All of the medical fields for good reason. Advanced manufacturing. Industry leaders such as Intel, Microchip, Honeywell, Raytheon is growing. JDA Software. Frito-Lay is now here. And Insight. So they are attracting a lot of clean manufacturing and clean industry into our state. Advanced business services, data centers, huge data centers are moving here. They need power. Do you know what a data center is? It's those big collection bases for all the large corporations that don't keep all their data, but by federal law have to store it for a certain number of years, right? Well, they have to keep all of that stuff really, really cool, which means high energy demands. And you'll see these buildings just covered with solar because they supplement their energy. So right now, what we have going on in Arizona is the autonomous vehicles, no driver, truck manufacturing. We have semi-truck facility being built in Tucson right now for those big 18-wheelers. Same with cars. We have a car manufacturing facility that's going outside of Coolidge. Renewable energies again. Education technology, this is a big one. The Internet of Things. Freshwater science. We are now home to research and development for clean water and cleaning water and how to collect water and preserve it. Personalized medicine. Why do you think that's important? What's happening in medicine? Yeah, they're looking into your genes. They're looking into finding out what you are susceptible to. How can I, over the internet, diagnose you and treat you? That's happening right here in Arizona. Smart materials, that's all about lightweight, smaller, reduced size. Everything's going to be smaller and smaller. So my corporate career was with GT&E. I was a labor negotiator for General Telephone Electronics, and I served a number of states. And I can tell you, the big phone banks and the big computer banks we had, they were huge. Now all of that is shrunk down to tiny, tiny little bitty pieces of, look at this thing. My little Surface here, and this is an old Surface. It's not even one of the newer ones. What this thing does, it just amazes me. It blows my mind. Maybe not our young people. Agricultural technology. How do we grow more with less water? How do we grow more with less water and less maintenance? And then one of my favorites is the nano satellites. So how does this impact you? How does this impact you as a real estate professional? I can tell you that coming right out of Arizona, it is estimated that we will have a 1.9 trillion economic impact on the cars and the trucks that we produce here by 2025. That's pretty darn good, wouldn't you think? Next thing, we have 625,000 employees currently in the renewable energy sector. We are the #1 state with the most solar electricity installed on residences and businesses right now. Arizona is pioneering research of two of the most promising renewable energy sources, solar and wind. 60% growth demand for renewable algae-based biofuels by 2030. I just love this information. $2 billion is the estimated global market for online courses. 4,000 employees is currently the number of Starbucks employees who have applied for free online college courses. Did you know colleges are offering free online courses? All of them have a list of courses. So why are they doing that? Why are they offering some free education online? Take a course. Can you tell me why? To get them enrolled in something that they have an interest or a passion for. Help them find their passion. I think it's a great idea. I love that they're doing that. We will have 100% access, ubiquitous access to the internet provided in the future. That means that you won't have to log in somewhere. It's just going to be automatic. It's just going to serve you. Isn't that great? 6.2 trillion. Oh, look, trillion. Economic impact of the Internet of Things. That's all the stuff that's going on with the internet. There's a 20 to 40% potential average boost of the industrial internet over the next 20 years. That is nationwide. That number is nationwide. More than 99% of the physical objects today that could connect to the internet have yet to be connected. We still have people that walk their CE and everything else into the Department of Real Estate every day. They have flip phones. They don't have internet. They don't have smartphones. There are still those folks out there. 50 million is the number of devices that will come online with Generation Connect by 2020. Is this exciting news for you? Is it? It excites me, I'll tell you. 1.8 billion is the number of people without access to enough clean water by 2025. Ergo, research and development for water in Arizona. We are going to lead the way on that. And we are a perfect state for that, are we not? We've done good with our water management. With our rate of growth and our population, however, that could change. A lot of things could change there. 400% increase in the demand for water required by manufacturing by 2050. So you're going to see these manufacturers using processed water, affluent, that kind of stuff. 1/2 of the world is expected to live in areas of high water stress by 2050. And we'll be able to provide solutions for that. 115 million people will be affected by dementia by 2050. People are living longer. People are living longer, but the mind isn't remaining. The mind. Yes. That's my joke for the day. I know you didn't get it. I gotta knock on wood. I pray to God it's not me. 13.8 million number of Americans who will be living with Alzheimer's disease by 2050. And dementia and Alzheimer's are related, but they're different, very different. $100 is what it's going to cost for the sequencing of a person's genome in the next decade. What's a genome?
Your genetic makeup.
That is exactly right. That's what tells the medical field what you are susceptible to, what you are likely to contract as you age. They are going to know more about you than you know about yourself. Isn't that a little surprising? And a little scary. I think about that at my age now. 1 gig is the space required to hold the polished version of a person's genetic code. So your entire makeup is going to take 1 gig of memory. There's 1,000 nanosats weighing less than 2.9 pounds. Tiny little things are expected to be launched into space over the next 5 years. How many of you read the article about the new drone, the tiny little new drone? So I ordered one. They're on back order, like for months. I probably won't get mine for months. But when I get it, I'm going to bring it into my classes so I can take pictures of all of them. I can't wait to see this. 700 satellites are the number of satellites that SpaceX is developing to supply internet access across the world. O3B Networks is investing $1 billion right here in Arizona to launch low orbiting satellites for faster and greater internet access. Is this not exciting news? Is this not stuff you should be sharing with people who are looking at coming here and buying here? Our market is changing. You have to see that now. It isn't just about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. That's on the horizon as well. But I will tell you, this is what's going to make Arizona move. And there's some negative impact to that, right? What would be one? We experience it now. Pollution, traffic, yes. Water consumption is going to be a big one. That will be a big one coming up. So these were the headlines back in that came out in 2015. That Arizona expected to have the nation's fastest job growth market from 2012 to 2017. That came out in Forbes, and we exceeded that. I mean, we've gone beyond that. We're continuing to hold that record. Industry stats, at the end of 2015, we reported that there were over 320,000 jobs at an average annual pay of $66,807 added to the Arizona economy, resulting in $21.4 billion in total annual earnings within the state. We added over 14,000 new establishments, and our academic research and development totaled more than $383 million in fiscal year 2014. We are the top 5 in the nation in space and defense manufacturing. I think this is now top 3. We are home to more than 50 major data centers. We're almost up to 70. So how many of you are familiar with that industrial park way out on the west side? You're going to see those data centers there. You're going to see them in Coolidge, Casa Grande, all the way down to Tucson. And more than 100 significant solar energy businesses are already established in Arizona. So we have exceeded all of this. Why is that important? It's attracting growth. So in 2010, who can tell me what our population in the whole state was in 2010? Who knows?
5 million, 3.5 million.
Up, little up, 6.3.
Oh.
6.3 in the whole state. They said we would grow at about 1%. That was the extrapolations. We'll do probably projections were 1% per year, right? So write this number down. We are growing at the rate of 235 people per day moving into this state. 235 people per day. At the average family size today, especially for young people, they say it's 1.25 is, I don't know how you get the 2.5, maybe girlfriend or maybe child not yet born or something like that. But a lot of our young people are not having families. They're not growing large families. So right now, this number came right out of the governor's office. Their fiscal year ends June 30 in the middle of the year. So this number came out in early July. We are actually, for 2017, we were 7,020,000. So we exceeded the 2017 number. Boom. 2018, they're saying 7,123,000, almost 124. We've already exceeded that. We are going to exceed 7.2 million. 2019, oh, I dropped a 0 there. 2019, we will exceed that number. And same with 2020. That's what that should be, is 2020 up there. All right, here's our great Maricopa County. Where do you think people are relocating to? Maricopa County. So your counties are growing at huge rates, and I'm going to tell you which ones are the fastest growing. But in 2015, the Census Bureau contacted our Maricopa leadership and said, hey, we'd like for you to participate in conducting an off-the-record census because your county is growing at huge rates. Can you do a numbers count for us? Sure. They said sure. 2015, 2016, 2017, and now in 2018, we are still the fastest growing county in the nation out of some 3,300 counties in our entire nation. So really good stuff. Where are they coming from? Where are people coming from? People relocating from elsewhere in the U.S. What's our biggest influx? California. Traditionally has been for years. Now those numbers are just off the charts. They are coming in droves. So my husband is a licensed broker in California as well. And a lot of his business earlier this year was done in California. Those folks cannot find moving vans for a local move. They're selling their home and staying within the state. They can't get a moving van. You are booked. They are booked 5 months out. They have all of their vans. In fact, you will see semis hauling moving vans, U-Hauls, Ryder trucks into California so that people can move out. But people are also moving in to California, just so you know. Relocation of clean industry and major companies, largest contributor, natural growth, more births than deaths. So we still have more babies. People are living longer. International migration, where are they coming from? Who's buying here internationally? Asians. It's Asians. They become our number one buyer. Canadians still major investor, still major investor. Actually, the last couple of years, major sellers, right? Why?
30%.
Yeah, the dollar, and because they bought during the downturn, right?
It was higher.
So and now all those values, we've managed to bring them back up. So they're selling. Just make sure you know your FERPTA laws. Retention of our university grads. So you need to know that our 3 universities in this state are top ranked in the nation, have the highest enrollment in the nation, and highly respected. What's really cool about this is we can keep these smart people here. We can keep our brains in the state, which is really good. How are we doing that? Industrial growth and development. They now have jobs that they can go to, that feed their needs after getting these great educations. All righty. Are you bored yet? Good. Pinal is our second largest county for all the same reasons. So Pinal is just south of us, right? So my little red laser doesn't work on this. But up to the top where it says Superstition Wilderness, all of that area right down to just this side of Casa Grande is where the largest new home developments are right now. Now that's moving over to Buckeye and some to the north, which you're going to see. Those are being built now, and they definitely show up there, but the largest volume is here. But why would this county be so attractive to people? What's happening? What lures them in? They have a lot of land, and it's inexpensive in comparison to us, right? We're considered kind of like the high price community, right? People can afford to live in those areas and have the properties that they desire. So next highest counties I'm going to tell you after Pinal County is Tucson area, Pima. Lots of new development going on in Tucson, but their structure is very different. Their water law is very, very tough, very tough. I can tell you that it is not uncommon for a monthly water bill to run you about $2,800 a month in Tucson. Yeah. Yes. I have friends that live there. I can tell you for a family of 6, it's going to run you it's very costly if you're in certain areas. After Pima comes Yavapai is number 4. Yavapai is Prescott area. Huge growth. And then Mojave after that, Kingman area. Kingman, huge. Why Kingman? And I-40. And, Highway 11 was coming from Canada, connecting to Mexico, that's coming right through the state of Nevada down into Arizona. It looks like that's back on the plan now. It's not NAFTA anymore. It's something else, but it's still Highway 11. So this comes from the National Alliance of Home Builders. And the last one I could get from them that actually had the chart completed was the end of March of 2018. But I just want to share with you some information on this. And if you guys want these slides, I have them separated from all the rest of the stuff. I'm happy to email these to you. Just give me a card with slide on there so that I know. So the red is where we are having major decline. People are leaving. They're moving out of the states. They're looking to live elsewhere. The yellow shows growth, but very moderate, less than 6% annual. The green is where there's major growth going on. And you can see Arizona's right in the middle of that. Surprising numbers when these came out, because the number one, the highest rate of growth on here is the state of Idaho. State of Idaho, I know you can't see it, but it's 42.3% on this chart for Idaho. I love Idaho, but it's cold. In Arizona, one of the greatest attractions for us is that we're a destination state, right? People want to move here. We have 10,000 boomers retiring in this country per day. Write that number down, 10,000 per day. Retiring means old, becoming decrepit, like me, Why are they? So we are one of 3 choices. What are the other 2? Who do we compete with? Florida, yes. And who else? Nevada. Yes, absolutely. Nevada. So it's no wonder we have all this medical growth. Are you noticing it? Now suddenly we have a hospital on almost every corner, urgent care, lots of things happening. Okay, Idaho 42.3, New Mexico next at 32.8. New Mexico, that's my home state. Love New Mexico. a 32.8% growth. So I've got to get over there and see what the heck's happening. Alaska, 31.8. And the next on the list is California at 29.3%. People are still moving there. Who's moving there? Youngins. It's the techie crowd, right? It's all the technology people that want to be part of that energy. Can they buy houses? No. Average home in San Francisco, small. I just heard this from Bill Gray the other day. Condominium, San Francisco, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, less than 900 square feet, 1.2 million. 1.2 million. And that, can you imagine that? I just can't imagine that. We're so lucky where we live. Okay, largest employers. State of Arizona was not even on the list last year. They are now full and part-time employees at 39,000. They've had to start hiring because our population is expanding and the number of people they have cannot serve the community well. So they are hiring people again. Banner Health, 38,900. And actually that number was higher last year as well. What has impacted them is Honor Health and Dignity Health. Moving into Arizona, they have some competition. Competition is good, right? You might not agree with that when you think about all the real estate people that are coming into the market, but competition is good. Walmart, 33,800. They are now number 3. Instead of always being the leading employer in Arizona, and nothing against Walmart, they employ a lot of people. But do these people have the homeowner opportunity that other jobs provide? No, they don't. So I'm glad to see that we've got other things happening here. Walmart is a great training ground, though, I have to tell you. They're really good at training their people in customer service, and then they can move forward. It's good. It's like Disney. If you work at Disney, you'll get hired just because you have great customer service training. Wells Fargo and Company, 15,000. That's up over 1,000 people from last year. City of Phoenix, 13,800. Arizona State University is up 13,400. Raytheon has hired 1,000 people in the last 12 months. Honor Health, new to Arizona, at over 11,000. Dignity Health, over 11,000. And University of Arizona, over 10,000. So all of these are higher paying jobs. What does that mean to you?
Home buyers.
You have home buyers, people who can qualify for loans, right? Buy homes and may plan to stay in the community for a while. May live here for a little while. And that's what we want, instead of this constant flipping and turning. 2018 market trends. So as of the end of September, we had 17,466 single-family building permits issued in greater Metro Phoenix area. That will include parts of Pinal, all the way out to Coolidge, down to Maricopa. Why is that good news? What's your inventory like right now? It's suffering, isn't it? It's pretty low. I'm going to tell you, if you're not visiting new home developments, you're missing out on income for you. These builders are begging for people to come in their door. They will work with you today. You need to take advantage of that. So for those of us who've been around for a while, there were days when I lost buyers to a new home development because I wasn't with them on the first visit, right? You can now go visit a development, meet your salespeople, register your client early, and they will honor it. Ask that question. Will you honor my client's registration? Can I have a packet to send them about your subdivision? I've been doing that lately, and they are all cooperating. Less than 10% of their sales come from the real estate community. They would like that to increase. And by the way, I have a great class on that. I can share all that information with you. Okay, so buyer traffic has increased. How many of you are working with a buyer right now? Okay, so a few of you. What caused it? What caused this increased traffic? Relocation. That's the best reason. What else? First time?
I got investors.
You have investors. What has the interest rate impacted any of that activity?
Yep.
Some say yes, some say no. So I taught a course on the Way West side the other day. Almost every one of the buyers they were working with were suddenly afraid that they were not going to be able to qualify because of the bump up in interest rate. And I am also going to tell you this. I told you I've been around a long time. I have never seen interest rates climb in an election year. Not ever, not ever. This is the first year that I've seen that. Pretty amazing. Okay, home prices have pushed higher. Are you noticing that? Yes. We have a lower buyer pool. Our inventory is low. Again, check out the builders. They have inventory now. They have not been holding inventory, but they have it now. Rising interest rates are spurring some buying activity, and we still have under 350K is still our most popular price range, sales price. I'm sure that will change. It's probably going to go up a little bit as we progress, but for right now, it's still under 350. Okay, so you want to hear about your industry, what's happening in your industry? So I serve on the Education Advisory Committee to the Department of Real Estate, and we meet frequently, and we always get the updates on what's happening. So we are educating about 1,300 licensees per month, maybe a little bit more, but as best we can tell, about 1,300. 1,300 are going in and testing. But out of that 1,300 that will pass their exams, only about 600 of them are actually registering with the Department of Real Estate and applying for a license. So there's 700 other people out there that aren't doing anything. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
Is it they're not passing their test, or they're just
No, they've passed.
Okay, they did pass.
They've passed their exam. So why aren't they registering with the state? Yes. Yes. So I teach pre-licensing, and I teach large class sizes, and I always poll my audience. You know, what is your intention? Why are you here? Is this a career plan for you? And probably about 50% of them will say, no, I am positioning myself to inherit wealth, real estate wealth, because we, your boomers and older, are passing away, and they are leaving their assets to their children. And there's real estate in there. So they want to learn how to manage it well. The commissioner, however, will tell you that there is a growing contingency of people that want to conduct real estate without buying the license, without paying the dues with the association. So when you are in a cross sale, I'm just going to give you a heads up. I've been doing this for a long time already. It started happening. Any of you a member of a team now? Anybody work on a team? So when the teams were first introduced, there were a lot of licensed and unlicensed people on those teams. And I would be in the middle of a transaction communicating and negotiating counteroffers or amendments to the contract with someone who was not licensed. And it not only did it jeopardize me, but it also jeopardized the transaction. So start checking to make sure that your folks are licensed with the ADRE. You all know how to do that, right? It's easy to check. It should become just part of your natural checklist. The other reason, I'm going to tell you exactly what the commissioner said the other day, and if you go hear her speak at any time, she'll say it. We have a lot of people with criminal history, serious enough that it would not warrant distribution of a license, because getting a clearance card just discloses what the convictions are, whether they're a felony or a misdemeanor. It is then up to the Department of Real Estate to determine whether or not you are a person of good moral character since that occurred. It's not up to us. It's up to the department. So a lot of those are not going to be approved.
What do you recommend doing if you're negotiating with a like if you realize this person doesn't have a
I've had that happen,
What
and
do you
I
do?
told them, you need to get somebody on the phone right now that is a licensee for your company, because I'm not going to talk to you anymore, and I am going to report this. You know, that's the thing that we don't do today, and we're getting to the point to where it's costing us more time and energy and effort. We are self-policing. When you did your orientation, right, you were told we are a self-policing industry. It's the only way it works. There has to be a reasonable, a friendly competition, but we also have to police one another. And there are people out there that make it very difficult for us to do our jobs. We are supposed to keep and maintain a level playing field for everybody. And some of us are not doing our job with that. So that's part of what this class is all about, is to figure out what we can do. How can we have some impact on that? So these numbers, I just want you to notice Right here, this number down at the bottom, total this month, 86,298 currently licensed. That includes everybody in the grace period. That includes active or inactive. Do I have any inactive licensees? Sometimes I still do. An interesting number for me, I've been watching for a couple of years now, is the grace period number. So you'll notice total individuals for this month, and it's the second to the end, coming from the right back in, 4,939. It always stays pretty darn close to 5,000. Every month it's about 5,000. And about every month we lose 1.5% to 2%. They drop out. Their license expires. So remember what the grace period is. Your license has expired June 30 of 2017. So by June 30 of 2018, you are now terminated. Your grace period is over. To relicense, you would have to completely re-exam. Your school might still be good. Your education might still be good, but you would have to take and pass that exam to be relicensed and go through the whole qualifying period again. So these people are just not coming back. So we have about 5,000 people out there that have no intention of coming back to work. If you know who those people are, they have contacts. I'd start getting their contact database lists and have a transfer of trust occur so that you can start working and marketing those folks for future business. So currently we have brokers, 13,132. Salespeople, 59,614 for a total of 72,746. Where were we in 2007 at the downturn of the economy? Who can tell me? Almost 98,000 licensees in the state of Arizona. Almost 98. We were turning them out. We were licensing 1,800 individuals per month. July of 2007. I know because I was there. I was part of that madhouse. So entities, your next group of number is entities. So last month we were just under 8,000. That's a little bit less than the same time last year. We were at 8,000. So we are starting to see some mergers and acquisitions. Companies are being bought by some of the larger companies. And we have some self-employed brokers that have decided, okay, I'm ready to work now. I'm going to go back with a big brokerage firm. I can't manage this out of my house very well anymore. So our totals really at that 86 number, you have to subtract the 5,000 and then you have to subtract the inactive. What does that say to you? There's still a lot of business for very few agents because we're talking about the whole state. You need to look at this in a positive light because it's changing. So that 600 people that's coming on board, some of that is being managed out. The numbers aren't clear and don't represent a true picture because in the grace period, people are not renewing. But those people aren't working anyway, or not supposed to be. But typically they're not working. So not bad news, huh? I don't think it's bad news. I think it's good news. Okay, now we're going to get to the code of ethics. Our promise. Are you bored yet? I'm only allowed 25% of the time for an entire class to present that first section. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to cover business ethics, the NAR code of ethics, pathways to professionalism, the right and the wrong, review of our code of ethics, common violations, procedures for filing complaints, and we're going to go over some case studies. And if time allows, you get to do a quiz. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about our steps to success. I am required by the National Association of Realtors to give you a little bit of a history, talk about the NAR, National Association of Real Estate Exchangers, and the 1908 Code of Ethics, our Code of Ethics established in 1913. We're going to talk about the preamble, 17 articles, and standards of practice, which explain the articles. Okay, pre-1900s, if you can imagine, how many of you watched The Gangs of New York? You see that movie? This is exactly where we were. So New York, all of the immigrants were coming in through Ellis Island. They were processing 500 people per day coming into New York City through Ellis Island. So, I mean, The old videos of those times were amazing. There was no licensing anywhere in the U.S. for real estate practitioners. It was a total speculation. We exploited people. It was truly a caveat emptor, buyer beware, very much disorder. If a real estate person had any kind of a license, it was a street peddler's license, because because they'd stand out on the street and they would advertise their wares. And if you watch the Gangs of New York, you could see how they rented beds. It was hot racking. That's where the term got developed. Are you familiar with that? One person would get up, go to work. Another person would come home, get in that cot, and they would pay for their time. And boy, if you got found in a cot that you hadn't paid for, you were in trouble. You could die for that. That's how serious it was. So here's a photograph. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is downtown New York. Shows you where all the marketplaces are, and you can see people hanging laundry out. The population was just exploding. There just was not room. There was not housing for people. And we had major growth growing all across the country. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a history of what was happening just prior to the turn of the century. So it was a time of industrial manufacturing. So where do I want to go? I will start since I'm short on time. So let's go to inventions. So in 1891, the first escalator hit the market. It was developed by Otis. Otis. Where do you see the name Otis today? Elevators. Yes, elevators. It's a huge history. Oh, and then the first diesel-fueled combustion engine was developed in 1892 by a gentleman by the name of Rudolph Diesel. Interesting. 1893, Whitcomb Judson developed the zipper. So when you watch these old Westerns, if they don't have the button-up pants, they're not authentic. That's a truth. Hell on Wheels. How many of you watched Hell on Wheels? Oh, I love that. I'm on my third viewing. And they had buttoned-up pants. So they were authentic. Nikola Tesla developed the first alternating current motor and transformer. Why did we invent cars? Does anybody know why it was so important to get the car out? Was it just a natural progression? It was because of all the pollution from the horses. They said, invent something. Kid you not, if you look at the history, because look at these streets. You have a lot of carts. There's automobiles in there too, but horse-drawn carts. San Francisco, look at old video of San Francisco when they had the rail cars, and dangerous. There were no laws. There was no traffic laws. People were crossing the street. Trolley cars were coming down the way. Horse-drawn buggies were going down, and then you'd hear the old Model T Ford, beep, 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 coming through. And they went through 4 lanes back and forth. I mean, it's the most amazing thing to watch. And people survived that. I don't know how they did it. 1895. Here's a good one. My husband added this one. So in 1893, DeWar developed and still sells the first banana Twinkie. My husband. He's a Twinkie fan. 1895, Lemire Brothers developed the first portable motion picture camera. 1898, first roller coaster. 1899, the bicycle frame became patented. They didn't develop it, but they learned about patenting. And the first motor-driven vacuum cleaners were on the market for sale by Thurman. Then came light bulbs, typewriters, sewing machines, internal combustion engines, mass production of products and goods, and it was all being transferred by rail and by steamship across the country. So huge growth. We were really growing and pushing out. 1900s brought the infancy of the airplane, first radio receiver. Carrier developed the first air conditioner, first lie detector, and the birth of the teddy bear occurred that year, and neon lighting hit the scenes. That was in 1902. 1903, one of my favorites, Crayola crayons, and the Wright brothers flew the first gas-operated airplane. That was in 1903. 1904 came the first tractor. 1905, was Einstein's theory of relativity. And in 1906, a very famous dry cereal hit the market. Who can tell me what it was? Cornflakes. And who made them? Kellogg's. Kellogg's cornflakes. And here's what's cool about Kellogg's. You know where Cal Poly is? Yeah, Cal Poly. That was that Arabian horse farm. That was dedicated to Cal Poly Institute by W.G. Kellogg. Over 800 acres to the university. They have to. Is that my? No. They have to do the horse shows and maintain the breeding program, and it has to be on their curriculum. That's how they keep that 800 acres. You learning anything?
Yeah.
Good. 1907, plastic was invented, and we had the first color photos. Also, the first helicopter was invented. And just so you know, in the 1880s, that Germany had the first submarine, operational submarine. 1908 came the first Model T, and in 1909, my mom's favorite, instant coffee. Yeah. That's just a little bit of the history. But things were a madhouse here. So you can just look. In New York, right before the turn of the century, New York's population was 3,437,000. In less than 10 years, it went to almost 14 million. Almost 14 million in less than 10 years. So you think about us adding 235 people a day. We are concerned about traffic. We are concerned about pollution. You can only imagine what that had to be like for this city. So the National Association of Realtors in Chicago, Illinois was formed in 1908. They were known as the National Association of Real Estate Exchangers. So the whole goal was to bring men, there were no women, women were not allowed, to bring men together to perform the services to consumers, buyers and sellers, renters and landlords for a fee, and bring professionalism with it so that they could be trusted, they could be counted on. So there were some 19 associations that joined across this, or 19 groups that actually became members. There was one state that built an association. Who can tell me who that was? State of California. State of California had an association of realtors, and they joined. So they were to establish professional standards for conduct, or our code of ethics does. It was adopted in 1913, some 5 years later. They took a long time to develop it. The first ethical code for business after medicine, engineering, and law. And they were scoffed at. These people were scoffed at. They said, no, we are going to bring some semblance of professionalism into this industry because it's a good industry. It focuses on service to the public, commitment to professionalism. It includes duties to the client and duties to other brokers. So it went beyond what other professions had. It was like a peer-to-peer agreement. We are going to work together. We are going to become a brotherhood. It stretched out. It got into industry codes. Company policies were established based on it. Individual moral values were brought forth in the carrying out of the business. Business ethics and legal standards were then developed. Became the basis of a lot of our real estate law today. We're going to talk a little bit about how Arizona almost completely mimics the code of ethics. So the other thing was that because we were such a professional group, there were other professions that wanted to join us. So we now have appraisers that are members. We have mortgage loan originators who are members of our association. And we have property managers, commercial property managers who will belong to the association. They're all bound by the code of ethics. They all swear to uphold. But I have to tell you one thing. These affiliates are not punished or disciplined for violation of the code of ethics. They will lose their membership. That's the penalty if they violate our code. They're not subject to discipline. So the code of ethics was the basis for later adopted license law. So here's what I want to tell you about court rulings today, because I teach a lot of case studies also. It doesn't matter what state it's in this country. The judges sitting on that court, they rule based on what our code of ethics is. If that is supposed to set the standard for how real estate is supposed to function. So whether you are a realtor or not, If you are a licensee, and we have plenty of people who are licensed and not members of an association, distinct difference, right? You will still be held accountable to this code of ethics. It truly became the standard by which you are supposed to operate as the court sees it today. They provide a dispute resolution ever since its inception. The code has required arbitration of contractual disputes between and among realtors, respect for other brokers, exclusive relationships with clients, and cooperation between and among realtors. So who can file a complaint with an association? Do you know? The consumer can, a buyer, a seller, and a realtor. So any of us can file a complaint. Important changes, and there's a number of them, but the most important is what I wanted to focus on here. This came up at the IDW, at the Department of Real Estate the other day. Article 10, realtors shall not deny equal professional services to any person for reasons of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, or sexual orientation or gender identity. So and this was adopted a couple of years back. I'm sure you've all heard about the bathroom bills, right? The Phoenix bathroom bill. It's gone nationwide now. Everybody now is fighting bathroom bills. Here's the deal. Your sexual orientation or gender identity just won a major lawsuit at the national level in the state of Colorado. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. But what's important is that while we don't have this in our federal fair housing law, it's enforced in your cities, in your states. 50 states now have sexual orientation or gender identity, transgender language written in to their, whether it's an ordinance or a statute. So your goal as a real estate professional is to provide housing, correct? You help people find housing. It should never enter your mind any of this information. There was another major religion lawsuit just won here in Arizona. Terry Goddard actually won that case for a church here in the state. The other protected class you're going to be hearing a lot about is group homes. Any of you experiencing growth and development of group homes in your neighborhoods? Yes, almost every CE class I teach, I get the feedback on those. They are protected. We'll talk about that. So realtors shall not be parties to any plan or agreement to discriminate against a person or persons on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, there's your group home, familial status, national origin, or sexual orientation or gender identity. Further, in their real estate employment practices, shall not discriminate against any person, all the same reasons. So your broker policy manual needs to include that information. Check with your broker on this, but you don't want to be violating this because now this has become the subject of a lot of lawsuits. So why do you think NAR went from a 4-year biennial to a 2-year? Why did they do that? Just to make you suffer and sit through all this information again? Pardon me? We do have constant changes, but the biggest challenge is our number of lawsuits at the national level, where the consistencies are in those. And if you look at the ADRE, back in our heyday, we were averaging 70 suits a day, complaints a day. No, complaints were 300 and something. 70 cases per month were going to the AG's office. So what qualifies being forwarded to the Attorney General's office? You know, serious harm to a consumer, serious harm financially, financial loss, total mistreatment. We had 70. So now the market's changed, right? Do you think it's any different? It's not. It's no different today. In fact, it's worse. These cases are continuing, and it's not the new people. It's that we forget sometimes, or we've developed some bad habits, or we've slipped a little bit on stuff. You have to start protecting yourself with this. Here's the other thing you're going to see about ADRE, and this is coming down from the governor's office, that there's not a level playing field. You know, I own a school, a small school. I used to be curriculum developer for Arizona School of Real Estate and Business. We had over 650 courses. We did CE and licensing in all of the industry was covered. All of the industry, including real estate assistants, all of that stuff got covered. And when I was there, we constantly were polling audiences for feedback. The quality of education is declining. Would you agree with that? Are you tired of taking a 4-year-old course that no longer applies? I monitor them all the time. You are going to see a toughening up of the education requirements. That's coming, and it's going to be here next week. Before the end of this month, the new application for pre-licensing is going to be about 29 pages long. You know what it is now? 6 pages long. So they're toughening it up. You should be getting better courses, better pre-licensing education, and better continuing education to prepare you for what you're facing and the changes in the marketplace. That's our job. That's what the instructors are supposed to do. And really the Department of Real Estate, it's their job to protect the consumer. And how we do that is by educating you, the licensee. So you need to really be aware. This is a big one, primarily because of group homes, the sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, I work with a lot of property managers. We have big communities across the state, and they all tell me, we don't care about any of that. We don't look at that. We don't see color. We don't see any sexual orientation. We don't care if you're a transgender or not. They just don't care. They don't ask those questions. They don't need to know them. They know the law and they enforce the law. Why? Why is that so important? Why are they the ones that don't get the lawsuits? Because they adhere. They know what their job is. It's to provide housing and help people get into housing. That's what they look at. Standard of practice, advertising. This is a big one. 12-5. Realtors shall not advertise nor permit any person employed by or affiliated with them to advertise real estate services or listed property in any medium, including electronic, print, radio, television, or whatever, without disclosing the name of the realtor's firm in a reasonable and readily apparent manner. Department of Real Estate gets a number of complaints about this every day. They are going to start disciplining. They've given slaps on the hand. They've given warnings. They've talked to the brokers. It's not changing. It's not being reinforced. They get consumer calls every day. Well, it was group so-and-so. I don't know what brokerage firm. Well, what was the name? Well, they spelled it blah, 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 blah. Or I have a picture of this sign. The Department of Real Estate is continuously working to try to track down who these people are so that they can resolve an issue. And they can't find them. So your broker is going to be fined, and so will the agent.
They've been saying that for a long time.
They have been saying it. I'm telling you, I was at this meeting. There were 80. It was a train the trainer, IDW. And there were 80 people in that room, and some of them were brokers. And it's going to happen. You're going to see it happening, especially with population growth. Well, if you see it. So let me ask you, have any of you ever had a complaint filed against you? Do you know what the process is? First of all, you can't just email. You have to file a complaint. You have to specifically state what your issue is and attach your name to it and allow your name to be disclosed if it winds up going to a case. How many of you would be willing to do that? Me too, and I've done it. And I've had, and thank you for that, I've had people file complaints against me on my school. You know, when you advertise a class, you cannot advertise a class without adding the school name, the school address, and the school phone number. So I get complaints. I get a call from the Department of Real Estate. Well, you're advertising this class and it doesn't have the qualified information. We got a complaint from so-and-so. And guess who the so-and-so is? Who's filing those complaints? Other schools. Yes, other schools. And I'm a small school. I mean, I might issue 500 certificates per month. That's really small in comparison to most schools, most of the bigger schools here. But they have time to monitor my advertising. I didn't send the flyer. Who sent it? The sponsor for the class, the person who wants to provide it to the real estate community. So in this way, make sure that you comply. Where is this violated most?
Social media.
Social media and Craigslist. Have you ever found one of your listings on Craigslist? No? Do you look? Do you ever look? So there are a group of real estate brokers that will pick listings in certain areas, and they will post them on Craigslist, and they will not give you credit that it is your listing. Why are they doing that? That's right. They're fishing. They're looking for buyers because that buyer is going to call them, right? So they get to represent the buyer. But not only does your code of ethics say you need to do that, our state law says you need to do that. You have to disclose the broker that owns that property, and so does the MLS, your IDX. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so HomeSnap, have you heard about that? Like if you get, HomeSnap is that mobile app where you can take a picture of a house and it gives you all the information. It's kind of like,
Great.
it's a realtor's resource, like a realtor.com. But if you send it out to your sphere of influence and they connect through you, every listing has your connection, not the broker who lists.
It doesn't say offered by
Yeah, I'm
or
not-
provided by.
That's what they're touting as, you know, get it out there to your database because you want them coming through you when that property comes. Like
Right.
you're driving down the street. And you
Right.
see a
And
listing.
there's nothing wrong with that as long as you acknowledge who the listing belongs to. They don't see it?
No, I've not done it.
There's supposed to be at least a link to the brokerage firm that has that property listed. Same with tweeting. Same thing with tweeting.
A link or just the.
No, you can do a link on certain things. You can do a link. There's only one medium that you do not have to provide the broker's name and information, listing broker. Do you know what that is? Text. You can text and you don't have to provide the broker's name. They look the other way on that one. But yeah, you should be. If you're advertising, please just give credit to the listing agent. That's what creates a level playing field for everybody. Give them credit for it. Your buyers are gonna find it out anyway, right? Sooner or later, they're gonna know. Domain names, this is still a big one. So we do have some people, so we had big lawsuits. I don't know, it's probably back around 2003 or 2004. How many of you are familiar with Russ Lyon, Lyon? Yes, Russ Lyon, Lyon. So they had a big website developed. And someone developed another website, Russ Lyon, Lion, and then created all of their, what do you call it? The search engine optimization terms. Yes, and they had Russ Lyon. He was stealing all of the traffic from the Lyon, and he lost. That was a big lawsuit, huge penalties for that one. There was another one, another company along about the same time, Century 21, Century 21, right? Well, this person developed Century 21, Century dash 21, numbers 21. So they were stealing all the Century 21. So now, and they lost. They lost their lawsuit. So when you're be careful. If you're building a website, be careful that you are not robbing legitimate websites and directing traffic that was intended for the Russ Lyon or the Century 21, because it will cost you. Yes, I know. Okay, so now is probably a good time before we get into this. It's 10 after 10. You guys take a 15-minute break, be back at 10:25, and we'll wrap this thing up. Does that work? Any questions so far? No? Good. You got lots of goodies here that were provided by your host today.
Thanks again, everybody. Please help yourself to breakfast and everything. That's it. You're gonna have a lot of leftovers. Come for brunch.
You did say 10,000 per day are retiring.
10,000 per day?
In Arizona.
The boomer generation was somewhere between 75 to 79 million.
So that's in Arizona, though. That's
They're
10,000.
10,000 nationwide, and we are one of the states that they are retiring to.
It's funny because we were just talking about doing a class on aging parents and elder care because my database is in the sandwich. We have college kids and we're all taking care of our parents.
Yes.
So we thought like we could do a class on what do you do with their properties? You know, do you rent them? Do you
I
sell
think
them?
that's a great
Where do you
idea.
put them? Because we just we're doing this right now. My father-in-law just yesterday was at Barrels with us and he's got dementia.
See, we were the sandwich
Which we
generation
know
before
is.
you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's happening all
Now
over.
those slides that you got, were they from this website?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
they all, you
That's-
pulled all that from.
Not the population stuff. I put that
I'm
together.
gonna give you my credit, like to get what
Yeah,
you said.
I'm happy to send that to you,
So I
all the
think
way
that's
through
really
to the
interesting stuff.
home builders info.
Yeah, I've also, we connected to a great elder care attorney. That's all she does is elder care and how to set up their trust, how to get VA benefits, all that kind of interesting stuff.
It was fantastic stuff.
Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Have we met before, Beth? I feel like I know you. I thought that when you first came in. So you're at Pinnacle Peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there since 2005 with Kevin Gonzalez is my managing broker, Dean Dickinson.
I was there actually when, what was his name? I don't remember now. It's terrible. I just saw my good friend Linda Markowitz.
Oh,
was
she's,
there.
I see her all the time. Still, she's still in the office.
Yeah, I saw her. She was at a class not too long ago.
Oh.
So, yeah, so I think I have met you before, or maybe seen you at the association meeting or
Maybe,
something.
maybe
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been good.
Hi there. Hi, Mike Marty. Nice to meet you.
One of the things names of brokerages, people stealing. One of the things that we found out about when we were trying to find income for this brokerage is that
Hey, great. How are you?
had the
And when I tried to
experience
get in that, you're the only face I saw. It was like, oh.
Oh, over there? Yeah.
There you get it.
I did that twice. I did it and I was like, I see those guys in there. Maybe they just have
it's
nothing
also
after shit.
without
And then I'm like looking
all
through
of
the
that's
door rather than
money.
at the sign.
But
Me
if
too.
So I was like, what the
the
heck is
ADR
going
doesn't
on?
agree with
Yeah.
it.
And then
And
like,
so
you
we
gotta
ended
go
up
there.
having
Oh.
3 or 4
Yeah.
And then I saw
corporations
people
over there trying to park until they started just reserving their names,
Yes.
Good.
waiting for ADR,
I
and
was
ADR
going to do this
to
class
hire
next
one.
month, but then
They'll just say no.
I have a conflict
Yeah.
with
That's it.
another event.
And so it was, so for
Oh,
most people
yeah.
who are owning the whole
Great
thing,
thing.
one of the things that we just never.
Oh,
Like
is that
2
what?
weeks. Yeah, so those do
Go to them. So that
So can you
you
get it for the?
and let them.
Reserve it.
Yeah, reserve it, and then let
Yes.
the DRD, if we just go to the dollars.
I couldn't go to that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many And you would think that,
somewhere in town that day.
since
I'm
most
just downtown,
places
so,
are LLCs or
wanted to go
fill
down
out
instead.
corporations,
So
Yeah.
I saw this pop up in email, I was like, oh,
they don't
great.
necessarily have, they may not be listed on the corporation commission.
When they announced it,
There might be some form of
Yeah,
corporation.
Right.
went through it at that time.
And so you're saying, well, there
That makes
is-
no sense.
It doesn't,
Well, I've done
it seems like they would work together a
Yeah.
little bit more, but I
You
don't
know,
know.
focusing.
When, what
that's
year
when
was
you
that?
can
3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah. So you've been in business about 4 years.
For those guys, yeah.
I will tell you that one of the things I noticed in this industry, having started in it so long ago, is that the Department of Real Estate really got very little attention. They just cranked out licenses and that kind of stuff. And this commissioner worked really hard to clean it up. And if you walk down to that department today,
So I was like, yeah, if you want to go pay for those, you can totally do that for your bus online.
and her whole goal is to solve your problem. Even if you're not a consumer, she wants
Building
to
a
work.
business, you know, like,
Yeah.
with other agents,
And I
right?
love
So
that
I was
about it.
like,
You can't make
yeah,
everybody
we don't do
happy,
that again.
but it's
Like,
so
I
much
want
better than it used
Yeah.
to.
Blood loss.
I can't even tell you the differences that I see just working with other real estate agents. And I'm hoping that translates down so that we can start becoming a good working group.
Separate though. Like, meaning,
But isn't that like the marketing end of your business?
it is, so like I said, I do it, again, I would do it outside of home. Like, really, I was gonna facilitate those classes.
Right.
I would
Yeah.
just like, it's always been a very good company, just
Haven't had to deal with it, but that's probably.
Yeah,
good
because-
to-
Well, I have, but I don't always agree with her, but she'll listen to me. And I appreciate that.
I
We've
don't
had
think
some
so, no.
really
It's like its own
good
thing,
discussions.
and I think I would have to go get.
But I agree. I think she's the best we've ever had.
What's the name?
Internal Dynamics, School of Real Estate, yeah. And it's on my, it's on all my information.
Put your foot on the table rather
I
than
teach
just put good stuff
pre-licensing.
out there.
I'm gonna do the
Right,
online
yeah.
pre-licensing, working
But-
with her right now. I'm helping them develop this application.
Right, and that's already.
We just got the
a challenge.
salesperson stuff finished. We're starting on broker next week. Me and Bill Gray and Jim Hogan from Tucson, and we want it to be good for people coming into the industry. We've asked for a mentor program. We've asked
Yeah, like,
for other possibilities, a 2-year
way too
associate's
optimistic about
licensing kind of arrangement. She's more than willing to do all of that.
As I'm
We
calling
get
my
stopped by
wife, and, it's just a,
because of large brokers now.
Since we're working, my wife and I used to issue a state designation
that's the
for
thing,
a
right? That's the thing that drives, like,
Yes,
so it's like,
yes.
the pressure.
but it's totally different than any other.
And,
Mhm.
Just totally different. Like, any other
balancing
business.
things is always the
Anything.
challenge.
I know, it's so true. I have so many of my friends that very course you're talking about, they handle, I have one friend that travels in 6 states and probably handles about 250 different facilities. And it's just amazing to me.
Is that the top market,
That's
on top of
interesting.
its condos?
Sure.
Was it from
Yeah.
Is it the top market? Yeah.
they're shutting down those opportunities to provide hours. Classes on,
To finally be able to afford that and then, on top of that,
streamlining the office.
Yeah.
Right, because it's not a licensing,
And then on the other side,
it's not a statute
right? They want
or,
some room.
Yeah, whatever.
that's all ADRE can enforce. They can't enforce anything other that isn't in statute or rule.
But he was sharing a little bit about that, and how that it was sometimes.
almost, she didn't say.
It is very
words,
difficult
but
for him.
That's a feeling, yeah.
I noticed that the schools are talking
Yeah.
about
Ask them what they want to do and have them.
licensing.
Oh, we have people
Right.
from Argentina, China,
You know,
India,
Yeah, we get
the
that information
Micronesian
every
Islands.
day.
They want the application.
It's
They want online
Ask them.
licensing
They want
for
to pay this
everyone.
price.
but he does want to explore it.
Good, right, the chef.
No, he's teaching for
But then I don't hear from her every
WPRU, and he's still on the advisory committee to the Department of Real Estate. So I get to see him every week, and which is good for me because he keeps me on my toes.
Like,
He keeps me informed.
Is Arizona School called the Varsity School?
like 12 years ago.
Andros College.
And
Is that
this guy
Out
was
of Ohio. Yes, they're just totally, I couldn't stay there.
Yeah.
And the guys were good. They had a few kids or something. And then started calling me.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think they just got tired.
They bought Westford, they bought Advanced School of Real Estate, they bought, they tried to buy the new home sales company, what's the name of it? Does all new home sales agents. I can't remember. Very unique, but that's what they do, they buy it. They're all about the dollar. Well, the prices have gone up, the classrooms have changed, the quality of, I mean, it's the building, I don't know if you've been over to the new East building, but it's, they cram people. I mean, it's small rooms, and everybody's just crammed. And, but I knew that was gonna happen. I agreed to get them launched. That was my promise. I would stay until you're launched. And they've never hired so it has gotten old. It's gotten very old. So anyway, you know, they'll sell for millions of dollars and they'll make their money and be gone. No, actually, the reverse. It's starting to decline, but I do think the online licensing will change that. We have a lot of out-of-state schools. They're doing, yes, they're doing really well.
So does your association plus this quadrennial
Quadrennial, that was the 4-year. It's 2 years now. Yeah, it used to be 4 years.
Okay.
Now it's biennial. So if you took it in 2016, you need to take it before the end
I
of
put on a list.
2020. Yeah,
They have a list, I mean, yes.
of who needs it.
Well, Scottsdale does.
Yeah.
SAR does. And you're on the list because I want to just kind of I need this. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I won't get it until 2020.
Right.
2020.
Right, it'll be good.
I think we get a little confused on that one thing because it's not with your license renewal.
Right. Well, you can get CE credit for it, but
Right. Well, I obviously did I just renewed my license last November, and I obviously didn't do the right quarterback class. So now this one will fulfill my 2020 seat commissioner standards and
yes, my courses are approved in the
and
state.
my
Commissioner standards and your code of ethics.
yes.
Yeah.
So I just didn't do the right.
I made sure all my courses, I have 3 code of ethics courses, and I made sure they were all
We did,
acceptable.
we'll grab your card because Amy Liddell from Rankin.
Oh, I know Amy.
Oh,
I know Amy.
She wants to have a class.
Oh, yeah, she should call me.
With her brokerages, because a lot of our people need it.
Yeah, I have not seen Amy in a while. I think she's at the
Grand
back.
Canyon, yes. I see her a ton, and she was just calling me, and we said, my counterpart that couldn't come today said, will you please just sponsor a class so we can all get this? And so she'll put it out to her. I'm gonna text her right now.
And I was like, you guys, we gotta get one.
Yeah, she should do that soon, even if it's not me, because calendars are filling up.
We're not here.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We have 2 backup options.
You work with Faye too?
Pardon me?
Faye Humphrey?
Oh, I know Faye.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in Prescott.
Yeah, she's on our,
Where's your office?
North Scottsdale.
Oh, yeah.
But, Faye is our productivity coach for our teams around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got like 5 teams around the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's one of my best instructors when we were at ASRB. I loved it when she could take a class. Her husband was very ill during that time,
Yeah.
so
Well, she's,
she does. I
Yeah.
haven't seen her for a long time, but when I go to Prescott, people tell me, well, do you know Faye Humphrey? She teaches. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
great.
we actually brought her on.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know Erin Bauer? I think she's in your office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was recently closed on this for the first time home buyer, and I knew my
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep, that was my goal. If you use it for-
Okay, let's get started. Because I know you guys want to get out of here, right? So I'm going to set the alarm.
All right,
At 11:45, I have to stop talking.
guys. Can I just thank everybody really quick, really fast? Is that cool?
Pardon me?
Like,
Absolutely,
all right.
yes. So when I introduce our host
Slash.
of Breakthrough, and I forgot your first name. I'm so sorry. I'm so
I'm
bad.
Josh.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you everybody for coming. I know it's kind of sometimes a little awkward to come to other brokerages for classes. I don't want to be that person. I want to recruit all of you, but I really would love to in the long run. So figured the easiest way to get word out about Breakthrough in general is by offering some free classes and showing you guys that we do have a lot to offer. And so if anybody's looking over the next few months to contemplate making a change or anything, I would love to chat with you. We've got lots of commission plans, lots of benefits. And you'll notice our office is more of a sense of family and relationships as opposed to, the hoity-toity-ness. There's plenty of those around. We're all about the people and the relationships. So thanks again for coming by. And thank you.
Yeah. Okay, preamble. I think I have some copies of, no, I must have left them, of the preamble, but I got a little bit in here. So your code of ethics, welcome back, by the way. Your code of ethics is broken down into the preamble and then 17 articles, and then there's standards of practice that support each of those articles. So before we move on, just make sure your phones are off again and everybody is in class. It was based on the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that worked for years. So the difference is, for those of us who've been in the business for a long time, we really did have a great working relationship. We didn't have enemies in the business. We had people that we could work with that knew to call us if they had a buyer need that there wasn't an available property for out there. We used to have great conventions every year. They now call them conferences, and they're not like they used to be. I don't know when it really started to change, but it needs to go back to that friendly competition that we enjoyed in the past because it benefited all of us. I mean, everybody benefited from that, and we helped mentor new people coming into the industry. Because unless you were born a realtor or born a real estate licensee, you had to learn this business, right? And I'm just going to tell you, it's different in Arizona than it is in other states. Anybody from another state licensed in another state? It's different here, isn't it? Yeah. Where were you licensed? California. Yeah. California is much more complicated than we are. Much more complicated. And the breakdown is different. You have an association office almost by city, don't you? Newport Beach has their own. Huntington Beach has their own. Santa Monica has their own. You don't just belong to a state association and then join a local somewhere that covers a large, vast area. It's very, very expensive. Contract is huge. Environmental law, huge. Disclosures are huge. You have realtors are responsible for inspecting the property prior to putting it in the market and checking off on certain things. You think that increases your liability? Yes, try paying for that, errors and emissions. Who else? Archie, yes.
Wisconsin and Louisiana.
Oh, wow. 2 state. Are you still licensed there?
Yes,
Do you find it different here?
absolutely.
Very different here. Which state is tougher?
I think actually Arizona. To be honest.
It's true. I know it is. It's
Why
true.
is that?
I'll tell you in a moment. Is there another hand? Yes, sir.
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah, you can't write a contract in New Jersey.
Pardon me?
You're not allowed to write a contract in New Jersey.
Right. You're a title theory state.
Right.
Arizona's lien theory. That's what makes it different. Yeah, title theory, you just have develop the meaning of the mines, get general terms, and then what do? You turn it over to an attorney, and they do table closings, right? That's what they call a table closing. Yeah. So I teach pre-licensing, and I teach broker pre-licensing, and I have had people in my classes that are licensed in more than 35 states at times, and they hate Arizona. So why would you have that many licenses in that many states? Why would you? Who would need that? What kind of a person? Real estate
Somebody owns brokerages.
investors, people that work investors, or property managers that represent large holdings in different states. But really, real estate investment trusts is another one. So there are people who invested heavily in the downturn. They bought blocks of property when the banks were putting them on the market in the blocks, and Arizona is no exception. The reason our laws are different is because we are lien theory. That changed in the 1970s with our trust deed laws that came down. So people will argue, you can Google it. You know, I have that young millennial that will Google it in licensing and say, no, it's Google says Arizona is a title theory state. No, we are not. Title theory for personal property, your automobiles are by title, but your real estate is lien theory, which means that the lien is attached to the property, not to the title. Totally different thing, totally different concept. And it impacts our mortgage laws, our foreclosure laws, sale of deeds of trust on the courthouse steps. All of those things are impacted, so you have to know something different. And because of that, and because of Article 26 of the Arizona Constitution, you are charged with literally managing a small piece of real estate law. You're like little mini real estate attorneys. Did you know that? That's your charge. And that means your responsibility is higher as well because of that Article 26 of our Constitution. And there's a great history about that. Yes, Michael.
Question. Has any research they've done since we have these mega corporate players coming in, and they're literally buying thousands of homes here in town?
Yes, they are.
And I noticed that they're letting it sit, many of them, for months and months and months.
Yes.
So it basically takes empty homes off the market.
Yes. Because of their agreement with the builder. If they're brand new homes,
I'm talking about.
oh, that I'm not aware of. I know it's happening with the new homes.
Yeah.
So I met a woman, it's probably been about 8 months ago. She has an office down on Camelback. I'd not met her before, but she's been in business a long time, and she represents a large group of investors. And the investors are they're crowdfunded, so it's almost the cryptocurrency. So they buy cash, and what they had her do was go to new home developments and buy the smallest house under a certain price range. They tried to stay under 250,000, and they would buy 16 homes in a development, and the developer could spread them out. They could start production whenever they wanted. They could finish whenever they wanted. They made an agreement to hold them off the market for a certain period of time. Some might be leased, but only a certain percentage of those would be leased. The rest of them would be left vacant because they didn't want to mess up the qualifying criteria for fair housing or for FHA financing. And some VA, sometimes VA will look at owner occupied versus renter occupied single family homes. But they'd buy as many as 16. In one day, she would negotiate an agreement on 16 homes, new homes, in a new home development. Buying them and holding them, unless they're in really pristine condition and they just want to put them back on the market when the time is right, I can't imagine why they'd leave them vacant. I know, because our rental market is huge right now. Our rents went up 5% just last month, another 5% jump. I mean, you can buy a house today and pay less monthly than if you rent still, so far. So I forgot what I asked you. I hope that's not dementia or Alzheimer's.
Why is it harder to do business in Arizona?
Oh, why is it harder to do business in Arizona? So if you look at the history of Arizona, we've had a lot of fraud. We are known for our fraud in this state, where we have duped people, we have robbed people from all over the nation and other countries. And because of those, every time it happens and there's a big lawsuit, new laws get written and developed. And they've toughened them up. They've really toughened them up. And I have had brokers tell me this is the worst state to try to be licensed in, and keep your license. And because people don't follow the law. You are not allowed to abuse the consumer. Your job as an agent is to protect the consumer. So Arizona does not have one specific agency law. Their whole body of law for licensees is developed around your obligation to put yourself aside in the best interest of your client first in every instance. Agency is our #1 lawsuit in the nation against real estate agents. And this is like the 4th year running that's been the case. Dual agency, big problem. We recognize dual agency. That is going to become worse. With the coming soon and the coming soon exclusives, have you heard about those listings? The coming soon listings now offer a property, they're what NAR is calling the off-market listings. So that is creating a buyer pool, phone calls that only have one person to call, right? Who is it?
You.
Person on the sign. The person on the sign creates a dual agency, right? How many of those coming soon listings actually make it to active on the market? Not many. What happens? They sell. And they're not always cross sales. In fact, the likelihood of them being a dual agency situation is about 90%. That's pretty high. Pretty high. A couple of things are happening. So there are some sellers that have filed some complaints, some cases. I don't know where they're going to go. I'll keep you informed. But sellers are saying, I had an offer presented by my listing agent before we were actually on the market. It was our asking price. It was not an issue, but now we're wondering because our neighbors are telling us that we undersold our listing. What do you think is going to happen there? There's going to be some investigation and somebody is going to get hurt, right? So you have to prepare yourself for those things. You have to. If you have a buyer that sees a sign on a coming soon and they call you as their representative, can you write the offer on that property?
No.
You better check with the listing agent and make sure, because if it is exclusive, you can write the offer and they have to present it under the law, but are you going to get paid?
No, you gotta buy a broker.
There's no co-op. So you're going to have to do your buyer broker agreement and have them agree to pay you. And that too is creating a lot of problems. So we have now agents filing complaints against agents because they didn't understand that it wasn't a co-op agreement. The other thing you need to know is that not all multiple listing systems are the same. So some MLSs require that if you want to put it coming soon in the MLS, it has to meet certain criteria. Tucson will not accept a coming soon at all, not allowed. I don't know what Prescott is. I've heard that up in the White Mountains, they too will not accept coming soon listings. So it's a huge problem. If you guys read your Real Estate Today magazine, NAR wrote a 4-page article on this and the issues that it's bringing about. Here's another big problem that we're starting to see is that by coming soon, you put the sign in the yard and it sells before it actually goes active. Are you guilty of excluding a protected class from the opportunity, perhaps, to buy that property?
Who's the protected class?
Protected class, race, color, religion. I could go on. Right. Yes. Yeah, there's one right now that's coming up, and I can't say a whole lot about it because I don't know where it's going to land, but there is one it was a coming soon sign in the front yard to deliberately discriminate against race and national origin.
Why don't they just alleviate it altogether and not worry about it?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yes. Under all is the land. So this is the preamble part of it. Upon its wise utilization and widely allocated ownership depend the survival and growth of free institutions and of our civilization. Realtors should recognize that the interests of the nation and its citizens require the highest and best use of the land and the widest distribution of land ownership. What does that say to you? Everyone should have access. Everyone should have access, not just to home ownership, but to be able to own property. It goes right back to our Declaration of Independence. So why our founding fathers came here? So that they could own land, so that they could own businesses, so they could have homes, they could own their cattle, all that kind of stuff. And what's really cool here is because it is the widest distribution of ownership, then real estate is foundational in our economy. It's foundational. So, gentlemen from New Jersey, in 2016, Russia invested $90 billion into New York City. Did you know that? $90 billion into New York City. Yeah. You moved here, right?
Yeah.
Just the city, not the state,
No.
just the city. Those numbers came right out of the city, like 90 billion. Well, they do it here too.
Supposedly Trump had something to do with that.
Really?
That's what they were saying.
Really?
The farmer.
Well.
But you know what, the news, you can't trust the news anymore.
Yeah, the news not only separates people, it is separating families. So I'm in my second marriage, 25 years to a man I love dearly. He had 2 children. I have 2 children. So we're blended, all grown, all but the youngest married. And I'm convinced it's because no one will have him. Yeah, as long as he doesn't move home, I'm okay. I'm fine. But Christmas dinners, we have a tradition in our family, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Those are dinners at mom's house. That's just the deal. Well, our last Christmas dinner was probably our last with our kids because it turned into almost a food fight over the politics in this country. So 4 children and 3 spouses, there are 3 and 3 of their spouses, my husband and I, and we did not say a word. And it's a good thing we didn't because I think it would have gotten a lot worse if it had. But they have been informed that I will no longer be cooking all day to feed them so that they can come to my house and fight. They're not allowed anymore. But it's sad. There's no solution to this. We are a divided family politically. So
Isn't the solution not to just talk about it?
that's the rule. They cannot. And I don't discuss politics either. I mean, I was at a Bible study last night and there was a lot of conversation about what was on the news. And I'm just sitting there and somebody turned to me and says, well, you're being awfully quiet. You must be the only Democrat in the room. And I said, I'm not going to tell you what I am. I don't think it's any of your business what I am. And I do not discuss religion or politics. I've learned hard lessons from that. So I don't talk about it. So one of the things that it promotes is realizing that cooperation with other real estate professionals promotes the best interests of those who utilize their services. If you can create a cooperative agreement with people, get out and meet your real estate licensees, other people in other companies. I did that for years. I left Prescott in 1993. I've been gone. I still do business in Prescott. I still get phone calls from old clients. I still get phone calls from agents up there. I know what's going on. I still teach classes up there. And I do it because I was connected to my real estate community. I knew agents from Tucson. So when my mechanic from 20 some odd years ago calls and says, hey, we're going to buy a house in Tucson and retire to Tucson, can you find us a realtor? Or actually, he asked me to help him. And I said, no, it's not my area, but I'll find you an agent. And I made a $2,400 referral fee off of a phone call. So you guys are missing the boat if you're not servicing your contact database and working in cooperation. And you have to know who to send these people to. How do you know if you're like-minded? How do you know who to send your clients, your special people to? You have to get to know them. You have to meet them, visit with them, much like I do here with you guys today. I'm going to remember every one of you. And I also have your names on the roster. Aspirational. It is the aspirational concept is the preamble. So you can't be disciplined under this. This just sets what you're supposed to be working towards and forward to. There are several concepts that relate to protecting the profession's integrity. Where would you say we rank as far as the consumers feel about real estate agents today? What do you think it is?
Out of how many?
Nationwide, we moved up from 3rd from the bottom to 4th from the bottom now. And this is what's going to help us change that and alter that. Because I'm going to tell you, even with all of the changes, there are people out there that when they ask you a question, they want to be able to trust that you're giving them the right answer. So I know there's a really young guy, started in the business about 2 years ago, has been extremely successful and doesn't do any of the things that I did in my business. Well, almost none of the things, but he does them differently. First of all, where he connects with people is at the gym and in the lounge, happy hour. That's his work. He's not a heavy drinker. He doesn't wear suits. He doesn't dress up. Slacks, maybe a t-shirt, so he'll wear a jacket on occasion, but he only owns one. and he doesn't want to own more than that. He has a small car, but he prefers to ride his bike. He goes to the gym and he meets everybody he can at the gym. And he always has business cards on him. And he has developed his business out of networking in that environment. His other environment is the happy hour. He goes and he meets people at a happy hour. He doesn't invite a bunch of his friends over. He goes in alone and he starts meeting people and talking to people. And almost invariably in certain lounges, he won't give me the names of which ones, but there's people traveling. So my guess would be probably a hotel lounge or motel lounges. That might be where you would find somebody coming in to take a look at property. He does very, very well with that. He's a multi-million-dollar producer and very laid back kind of guy, very laid back. So there's several ways you can do this, but he represents his clients well. They come back to him. So I met him actually because I had a cross sale with him, and I was very impressed with how efficient he was. He was on top of things. I didn't have to bug him to send stuff in. He took his part of the transaction. How do you feel today about that? Is the other side of the transaction being handled for you when you do a cross sale? Sometimes is right. Yes, sometimes is right. So for folks that started in this industry early on when the market was going crazy, started in about 2003, people were walking out the door and they couldn't write contracts fast enough. I mean, I remember what it was like. And I had to deal with a lot of agents that had no clue what they were doing. I had, and maybe you'll remember this, 4 a.m., multiple listing would download all of the listings that went in the day before. 4 a.m., my fax machine at the other end of my house, I could hear it start running. If I had a new listing in there, and I would have 20 offers on one property. And most of them were very poorly written and incomplete, and half of them weren't even signed. Because and they were relying on the quick little photo or few photos that I took because it just hit the market. We hadn't had time to get a photographer scheduled for out there. We didn't have all of the paperwork even loaded in yet. That's how crazy it was. Those agents learned habits of how to operate during that period of time. It's our job to help them learn the easier way, the better way to do things. I truly believe that. I believe too. How many of you have heard of the principle of primacy? You know what that is? What you learn the first time, first learned, is what you will remember. That's what you will recall, even if it's wrong. Even if you're told later, this is why my golf game is so bad. I'm just gonna say, even if you learn how to do it well later, you will always default to what you learned first. So when we don't teach well right out of the box, when you learn bad habits, and that's what you default to. So protect the profession's integrity. Who can you change? Who can you change?
You.
Only you. So for every person that adopts a plan to become better and do better and walk the talk, then you will increase and improve the profession. So there's several concepts. It starts with competency. Get your education. Learn your market areas, learn your business, learn what you're doing. It's never good for commercial agents to come and try to sell residential properties on a contract they've never used before, right? We saw a lot of that in the downturn of the market. Commercial agents really working hard to try to survive would write a residential resale contract, had no clue. I am not qualified to write a commercial contract, would never think of going in to that side of the business. Fairness, be fair to all. Make sure that you live up to your fiduciary duty. The fiduciary duties, you know why they teach those so stringently? Because that's what you're held to in the court of law. Agency is a world concept, agency representation, and it is old. It is centuries old. And the courts will hold you to a higher level of accountability. If you say you are a real estate agent, that means you put yourself aside for the best interests of your client. High integrity, walk your talk. Don't walk down the middle of the road. Refrain from taking unfair advantage of your competitors. Do you feel like you have been taken unfair advantage of in some areas? Do you? No? I get yeses, a lot of yeses. Where would that be? Where is it an unfair advantage?
Open door, upper pad.
The new models,
Right.
the new business models. Yeah, open door. So I did a class on Open Door a couple months ago, and I thought they were going to throw rotten tomatoes at me. There was only one person in there, and he said, after the class, he said, I didn't want to tell you, but I work for Open Door. I said, well, now I know why. I mean, and I have a great class on that. But I will tell you, that's the wave of the future. That iBuyer, that model, doesn't mean you're not relevant or you're not necessary and you're not needed, but it is changing. It is definitely changing. And what they do is they gather data. They not only have huge influxes of cash to buy all these properties, they just got another $60 million allocated to them to purchase.
I was at a class yesterday that said 80 million.
Oh, I read 60, but it could be, still a lot of money, right? And maybe that's an additional, because my 60 million was probably about 4 months ago.
So it was at E, the fifth round, the E round.
Oh, yeah. Well, Arizona, they're based in San Francisco, California, but where are they investing their dollars?